The galactic throne ruled the stars. For more than 10,000 cycles, its banners flew over thousands of worlds. Great fleets guarded its borders. Ancient laws controlled trade, war, and peace. No empire dared to challenge it. In every corner of the galaxy, one truth was known. The galactic throne never lost. Inside the Grand Council Hall, light from distant suns shone through tall crystal walls. Dozens of alien leaders sat on floating seats made of gold and living metal. Their voices echoed softly in the vast chamber. Today, the council felt confident. Very confident. At the center platform stood High Regent Zelmer, ruler of the throne's outer systems. His long silver robes moved like liquid as he raised his clawed hand. "Council," he said calmly, "our scouts have confirmed it. The humans have begun building warships." A few leaders looked surprised. Then, laughter filled the hall. Soft laughter at first. Then loud, mocking laughter. Humanity. The youngest spacefaring race in the known galaxy. They had reached the stars only 300 cycles ago. They had no ancient empires. No legendary fleets. No history of great wars. To the galactic throne, humans were children playing with fire. Regent Zelmer smiled slowly. They build ships now. They dream of power. Another leader, Lord Varex, leaned forward. His many eyes glowed with amusement. Let them dream. Dreams do not make empires. The council agreed. Humans traded peacefully. They avoided conflict. They obeyed borders. They never challenged stronger races. Weak. Small. Predictable. But still, rules were rules. If humans are building warships, Zelmer continued, we must remind them of their place. The council approved at once. A lesson would be given. Not a war. Just, a message. Within hours, a royal task force prepared for departure. 5 cruisers. 2 destroyers. 1 command ship. Enough firepower to erase a young world. The fleet jumped through hyperspace toward the edge of human territory. They expected fear. They expected surrender. They expected silence. Instead, they found something strange. As the fleet exited hyperspace, sensors filled with noise. Not danger. Not weapons. But, emptiness. Space ahead looked normal. Stars burned calmly. No fleets waited. No defense lines formed. Scans are clean, reported the sensor officer. No human ships detected. The command ship moved forward proudly. Typical humans, said Fleet Marshal Corden. They hide in their worlds and hope we go away. The fleet crossed the border without resistance. Still nothing. Minutes passed. Then, a warning alarm sounded. Not loud. Not urgent. Just, confused. Marshal, the sensor officer said slowly, I am detecting a mass, directly ahead. Corden frowned. How large? The officer paused. Unclear. It was not there before. Space in front of the fleet shimmered. Like heat above a desert. Light bent strangely. Then, reality folded. Something appeared. Not from hyperspace. Not from normal space. It simply existed. A ship. Dark. Smooth. Silent. No engines visible. No weapons seen. No markings. No lights. It was not large. Smaller than a cruiser. But its shape felt wrong. Too perfect. Too calm. Energy readings suddenly exploded across every screen. Power levels climbed, and climbed, and climbed. Far beyond any known reactor. Identify that vessel. Corden shouted. No answer. Open communication. Silence. Scan its hull. The officer's voice shook. Marshal, our scanners cannot read it. The surface absorbs every signal. The fleet slowed. Fear crept into hardened hearts. This ship was not human design. Or, at least, not any human design they knew. How did it appear? Corden whispered. No hyperspace trail. No warp wake. No warning. It had been invisible. Watching. Waiting. The ship turned slowly. Not toward the fleet. But toward the command ship alone. Like an eye choosing its target. A single channel opened on the main screen. No image. Only a black background. Then, a calm human voice spoke. Not loud. Not angry. Just, steady. This space is restricted. The council fleet froze. The voice continued. You have crossed a protected border. Marshal Corden stood slowly from his seat. This is Galactic Throne territory. Identify yourself at once. A short pause. Then the human answered. This vessel has no name. Confusion spread across the bridge. No name. Corden repeated. It does not need one, the voice said. The ship's energy field suddenly changed. Space around it bent, deeper. Stars behind it stretched like thin lines. The fleet's engines began to fail. Marshal, an officer cried. Our systems are losing control. Still, the human voice remained calm. Turn back. Corden hesitated. Pride battled fear. We will not be threatened by a single ship, he said. Weapons powered up. Target locks formed. The human spoke one last time. This is your final warning. And in that moment, across the galaxy, the Galactic Throne took its first step toward regret. Silence ruled the battlefield. After the final warning, nothing happened. No shots. No explosions. Only the dark ship floating calmly in front of the Galactic Throne fleet. Marshal Corden stared at the main screen. His heart beat fast, but his face showed pride. One ship cannot stop the throne, he said quietly. Weapons officers locked targets. Missile bays opened. Plasma cannons warmed. The strange ship did not move. It did not glow. It did not run. It simply waited. Fire a warning volley, Corden ordered. 3 light cannons released short bursts of energy. The beams crossed space and struck the dark hull. Nothing happened. No shield flare. No impact flash. The beams vanished, as if swallowed. The officers froze. Try again, Corden said, louder. This time, full power. Heavy plasma lances fired together. They struck the ship directly. Again, nothing. Not even a scratch. Not even heat. The hull remained smooth and perfect. Energy readings from the ship suddenly shifted. Not rising. Not falling. But, changing. Space around it began to twist. The distance between the fleets felt wrong, like space itself was folding inward. Marshal, the sensor officer whispered. Power levels are no longer measurable. Our systems cannot calculate them. Corden clenched his claws. What is this ship? Before anyone could answer, the dark vessel moved. Not fast. Not slow. Just, suddenly closer. In one blink, it crossed half the distance without engines, without light, without sound. Several officers gasped. Impossible, someone whispered. The ship now floated directly beside the command cruiser. Close enough to touch. Close enough to see details. Its surface was not metal. Not crystal. Not energy. It looked like dark glass, mixed with moving shadows. Symbols appeared across its hull. Human symbols. But old. Very old. The communication channel opened again. "This encounter is unnecessary," the human voice said calmly. Corden stood tall. "You stand before the authority of the Galactic throne. Move aside or be destroyed." A short pause followed. Then the voice answered. "You cannot destroy what you do not understand." Suddenly, one small beam formed at the front of the human ship. Thin. Soft blue. No explosion. No charge sound. It touched the nearest throne cruiser. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then the cruiser's lights went dark. Engines died. Weapons shut down. Life support flickered. The massive warship drifted helplessly through space. Disabled. Alive. But, powerless. Shock spread through the fleet. They shut it down without damage," an officer whispered. Corden's breath grew heavy. "This is no scout ship," he said. Before he could speak again, 3 more beams flashed. 3 more cruisers went silent. No explosions. No death. Just, sleeping giants floating in space. Fear finally entered the hearts of the proud. "Marshal," the navigation officer cried, "hyperspace drives are offline. We cannot escape." Corden felt cold. The human ship turned slowly. It faced the entire fleet now. Still alone. Still calm. "You were warned," the voice said. "Leave. Now." Corden hesitated. His empire had ruled for ages. He had never retreated. Never bowed. Never feared. But this was not a battle. This was judgment. "Open channel to the council," he ordered quietly. The message traveled across space to the Grand Council Hall. Moments later, the tall chamber filled with anxious voices. High Regent Zelmer appeared on the screen. "What is happening, Marshal?" he demanded. Corden answered slowly. "One unknown human ship has disabled half our fleet. Without weapons. Without damage." The council fell silent. "Impossible," Zelmer whispered. The human voice suddenly joined the channel. "Uninvited. Unblocked. Unstoppable. Leaders of the Galactic throne," it said calmly, "your knowledge of humanity is incomplete." Zelmer rose from his throne. "Who are you?" The answer came after a pause. "A guardian." Murmurs filled the hall. "A guardian of what?" Zelmer asked. "Of borders you were never meant to cross." The human ship's hull began to glow faintly. Not with power. But with memory. Images appeared in the air around it. Old battles. Ancient fleets. Human worlds burning. Human cities destroyed. Human ships hunted by unknown empires long extinct. The council watched in horror. "You see," the voice continued, "humans did not rise in peace. We survived in silence." The images faded. The ship went dark again. "This vessel is not a warship," the voice said. "It is a door." Corden's eyes widened. "A door to what?" The answer came softly. "To the fleet you do not wish to meet." Suddenly, deep space behind the human ship trembled. Not opening. Not forming. Just, reacting. As if something enormous was waiting on the other side. The voice spoke one final sentence. "Turn back, before regret becomes permanent." And for the first time in its long history, the Galactic throne felt true fear. The galaxy held its breath. Behind the dark human ship, space trembled softly, like water before a storm. Stars stretched into thin lines, then returned to normal. Nothing opened. But the feeling remained. Something huge was waiting. Marshal Corden slowly lowered himself into his command chair. His hands trembled, but he forced them still. "Council, we cannot fight this," he said quietly. High Regent Zelmer stared at the floating images in the council hall. Ancient human worlds burning. Fleets dying. Empires erased. "This must be illusion," one leader whispered. "No illusion creates fear like this," another replied. On the battlefield, the human ship remained silent. Patient. Watching. Corden swallowed. "Guardian, if you wish us to leave, restore our ships. Let us withdraw." A pause followed. Then the calm voice answered. "Withdrawal is allowed." One by one, thin blue lights touched the disabled cruisers. Systems rebooted. Engines restarted. Weapons remained locked. The fleet was alive again, but weak. Relief spread. But not peace. Corden turned to his officers. "Prepare to retreat." Before engines could charge. A new signal appeared. Not from the human ship. Not from the throne fleet. From deep space. Very deep. The sensor officer's voice shook. "Marshal, detecting unknown energy surge, magnitude beyond all known scales." Space behind the human vessel darkened. Stars vanished. A shadow formed. Not a ship. Not a gate. Just a presence. Gravity bent. Time slowed. Every throne vessel began to drift, pulled gently toward the darkness. "Guardian!" Corden cried. "You said we could leave." The voice answered calmly. "You can. Then stop this." "This is not our weapon," the voice replied. "It is, attention." The shadow moved. Slow. Massive. Invisible. But felt. Every throne officer felt it inside their mind. Cold. Ancient. Hungry. On the council channel, leaders screamed. "What is that thing?" The human voice replied softly. "An observer." High Regent Zelmer stood shaking. "Observer of what?" "Of species that disturb sealed borders." The shadow grew closer. One small destroyer drifted too far forward. Its hull began to stretch. Metal screamed. Not breaking. But, aging. Rust spread across its surface in seconds. Weapons melted. Engines turned to dust. The crew vanished. Not exploded. Not burned. Simply, erased. The ship collapsed into nothing. Silence followed. No one spoke. No one breathed. That was not destruction. That was deletion. Corden fell to his knees. "This is, not war," he whispered. "No," the human replied. "This is correction." The Guardian ship moved slightly forward. The shadow stopped. Held in place. "Observer," the voice said, "stand down." For a long moment. Nothing happened. Then the shadow slowly withdrew. Space healed. Stars returned. Gravity normalized. The battlefield breathed again. Only one throne ship was missing. Gone. Forever. The Guardian turned back to Corden. "This was your first and final warning." Corden bowed his head. "What, are humans really?" he asked quietly. The answer came without pride. "Survivors." Images appeared again. Not of burning worlds. But of humans hiding in dark systems. Building silent ships. Creating weapons that did not shine. Designing fleets that never appeared on maps. "We learned long ago," the voice said, "that loud empires die first." The council watched in horror. "You hide entire fleets?" Zelmer whispered. "Yes. Where? Everywhere. The Guardian continued. This ship is not alone. It is not strong. It is not important. Fear spread through the hull. Then why send it? Zelmer asked. To see if you were wise, the voice answered. The Guardian slowly turned away from the fleet. Wisdom has failed today. Corden looked up in panic. Wait. What will you do now? The ship paused. Report to your throne, the voice said. Tell them one truth. What truth? Corden asked. That humanity is not expanding. Then what are you doing? Zelmer demanded. The answer echoed across space and council alike. Guarding. The ship began to fade. Not jump. Not cloak. Just disappear from existence. The battlefield returned to normal. No shadow. No guardian. No human ship. Only frightened fleets and broken pride. Corden ordered full retreat at once. The throne fleet fled in silence. Back to their empire. Back to their council. Back with one terrible message. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not young. And somewhere in the dark, human guardians were watching. Panic swept across the throne fleet like wildfire. The council had heard reports. Half their ships had been disabled. One cruiser, erased. No one knew how. No one wanted to believe it. Marshal Corden gripped the command chair tightly. His claws dug into the metal. Every system beeped warnings. Energy levels fluctuated. Engines strained. Weapons refused to fire. It cannot be, he muttered. This is impossible. Behind the mysterious human ship, space seemed to ripple like a living ocean. Stars blurred. Time itself felt wrong. The throne fleet's communications went wild. Alarms screamed. Officers shouted, but their voices seemed swallowed by the dark calm of the human presence. High Regent Zelmer's image flickered across every bridge. His face was pale, eyes wide. Marshal, do not provoke them. Withdraw immediately. But retreat was no longer simple. Systems failed. Ships that tried to move suddenly slowed, as if invisible hands held them back. Then the humans acted. A single beam appeared from the cloaked warship. Thin. Calm. Almost serene. It struck one of the throne's destroyers. Blue energy licked the hull for only a second. Then, silence. The ship had vanished. Not exploded. Not burned. Just, gone. The remaining throne ships froze. Officers blinked. Systems recalibrated. The fleet's pride, their confidence, evaporated like smoke. What just happened? Gasped Corden. The voice came again. Calm. Clear. Terrifying in its simplicity. Turn back. You have been warned. Corden's heart pounded. Pride and fear clashed inside him. For centuries, the throne had never retreated. Never bowed. Never faced defeat. Yet here, in front of a single unknown ship, their fleet had already suffered the unimaginable. High Regent Zelmer appeared again. His hands trembled. Corden, stop this madness. Do not fire. Do not resist. Do you hear me? Yes, my lord, Corden whispered. But, we cannot run. Not yet. They cannot possibly destroy all of us. Suddenly, the human ship pulsed. The calm blue energy expanded outward. It wrapped around ships like invisible chains. Engines stalled. Weapons fizzled. Systems went dark. Not one throne vessel escaped unscathed. This is power, whispered an officer. Beyond anything we know. And then it struck. 3 more cruisers disappeared. No explosions. No screams. Only emptiness remained where proud vessels had floated a heartbeat ago. The remaining fleet wavered. Officers stared at screens that now displayed only empty space. Corden's hands shook. It cannot be one ship. This is a fleet, a hidden fleet waiting. The human voice spoke again. You were warned. Yet you pressed forward. You tested patience that does not belong to you. Regret spread across the council like a disease. Worlds that had once bowed to the throne's power now whispered of fear. The leaders of the empire realized for the first time, they were not invincible. Corden's pride began to crumble. He looked at the remaining ships. Many were damaged, some disabled, none unafraid. High Regent, this may be the end of the throne. Zelmer's face was white with horror. Not the end, not yet. But regret has begun. And it will grow. Humanity, they are not what we believed. The Guardian ship pulsed one last time. The stars behind it bent unnaturally. The throne fleet trembled. Corden whispered to himself, voice hoarse with fear and awe. We awaken something we cannot control. Then the human warship decloaked fully for a moment, revealing a sleek, black hull glimmering like obsidian. No lights. No markings. Silent authority. Calm. Terrifying. And in that instant, the Galactic throne understood their first, bitter truth. Humanity had power hidden in silence. Humanity had patience born from survival. And humanity had the fleet they had never imagined. Regret had begun, and it would never end. The battlefield was silent. Ships floated like statues in space. No engines hummed. No weapons fired. The throne fleet trembled under the invisible weight of fear. Even the proudest officers could not speak. The dark human warship hovered calmly among them, unyielding, unbroken, and impossible. Then, the human voice spoke. Not loud, not threatening, just calm. You do not understand humanity, it said. Corden swallowed. His claws tightened around the command chair. Explain, he said. His voice sounded smaller than he intended. Humans were not born weak, the voice began. We were hunted. Our worlds burned. Our fleets destroyed. Every empire that sought to erase us failed because we learned. We adapted. We survived. The council listened in disbelief. Images began to appear in space around the human ship. Not holograms, not projections, but memories, ancient battles humans had fought quietly, in shadow, across systems unknown to the throne. Planets razed by invaders. Ships that disappeared without a trace. Entire empires erased. And humanity? Silent. Hidden. Patient. You see, the voice continued, our fleets do not announce themselves. Our weapons are not loud. Our power is not obvious. We wait. We watch. And when the time comes, a thin pulse of blue energy arced from the ship, tracing the path of destroyed cruisers. Nothing exploded. Nothing burned. But the throne fleet shivered. We respond. Zelmer's image appeared across every bridge in the throne fleet. His face was pale, his long robes trembling as he looked at the sensor feeds. You survived. Hidden. All this time. Yes, the voice said softly. We survived. We built quietly. We watched empires rise and fall. We learned patience because we knew the galaxy would one day test us. A shiver ran through the fleet. Officers whispered in fear. Many could not believe what they were seeing. Humans, the same species they had mocked, called weak and unworthy, had waited, hidden, for this moment. You underestimated us, the voice said. You thought we were young, naive, harmless. You believed your fleets could threaten us. That belief almost cost you everything. Corden felt cold. His mind raced. But, why show only one ship? The voice paused. Because this one is only a scout. A messenger. The rest of our fleet remains hidden. Far beyond your sensors. Far beyond your reach. Panic spread among the throne officers. Whispers turned to shouts. A hidden fleet. Impossible. This ship, the human continued, does not fight because it must. It fights to remind you that humanity cannot be surprised. Humanity cannot be underestimated. Humanity survives where others fall. Zelmer's voice shook. And if we do not heed your warning? The human warship shifted slightly, its hull pulsing like a heartbeat. Then you will face the full consequence of your arrogance. The throne fleet's weapons wavered. Engines refused to respond fully. Pride, centuries old, crumbled into fear. The council realized what Corden already knew: humanity had power that could not be challenged by arrogance alone. One officer whispered, almost to himself, "We thought we were gods, but we were children pretending to understand the universe." The human voice echoed once more. "You may leave. You may return to your empire. Tell your leaders that humanity does not seek war. But never mistake our patience for weakness. And never threaten our worlds again." With that, the warship began to fade. Slowly. Smoothly. Almost like it had never existed. The throne fleet watched as it disappeared into the dark nothingness of space, leaving only questions, fear, and a bitter truth. Corden exhaled shakily. They are not young. They are not weak. And they have a fleet, hidden. Watching. The council fell silent. Not even one voice dared to challenge that realization. For the first time in history, the Galactic throne understood that humans were not to be underestimated. And somewhere far in the shadows of the galaxy, other human ships waited. Silent. Patient. Deadly if provoked. The throne had survived this encounter. But the lesson was clear: humanity had already won. Not with weapons, not with pride, but with patience, resilience, and intelligence far beyond what the galaxy expected. Regret had begun. And it would only grow. The throne fleet ran home in silence. No victory songs. No proud reports. No shining banners. Only broken ships and shaken minds. Marshal Corden stood on the bridge of his command ship, staring at the stars like they were strangers. He had crossed many borders in his life. But he had never crossed a border that pushed back. When the fleet reached throne space, thousands of stations watched them arrive. People expected triumph. Instead, they saw damaged hulls, scorched armor, and empty docking bays where erased ships should have been. News spread fast. A single human vessel had stopped the throne. A single human vessel had judged them. Inside the Grand Council Hall, High Regent Zelmer called an emergency session. The floating seats filled with leaders from every major world. Some were furious. Some were pale with fear. Some refused to sit, pacing like trapped beasts. Lord Varrex slammed his fist on the platform. "This cannot be allowed. We are the throne. We do not retreat from anyone." Other leaders roared in agreement. But then Marshal Corden entered the hall. The room fell quiet. He walked slowly, his proud uniform torn and darkened. His eyes looked older than before. He stood at the center platform and spoke with a heavy voice. "It was one ship." Whispers rose. "One ship disabled half our fleet," Corden continued. "One ship erased a destroyer like it was dust. Our weapons did nothing. Our shields meant nothing. We were helpless." The council grew restless. High Regent Zelmer leaned forward. "Marshal, tell them what you told me. Tell them about the shadow." Corden swallowed. There was something behind the human ship. Not a weapon. Not a fleet. Something else. An observer. It erased one of our ships without fire or sound. The council's fear deepened. Lord Varrex laughed, but his laugh sounded weak. Fairy tales. Ghost stories. Humans are small. They should be crushed before they grow. Corden looked directly at him. They are already grown. Silence hit the hall like a hammer. They hid their strength, Corden said. They waited. They watched. They let us believe they were weak. And when we stepped too far, they showed only a tiny piece of what they have. A leader from the trade worlds raised a shaking hand. If humans are so powerful, why have they not taken over the galaxy? Corden answered slowly. Because they do not want to rule. They want to be left alone. Many leaders did not like that answer. They wanted enemies they could defeat. They wanted control. They wanted to feel safe. High Regent Zelmer stood. His voice was quiet but sharp. We must send a peace message. We must offer apology. Lord Varrex hissed. Apology? To humans? Never. Then something happened. Every light in the council hall flickered. The crystal walls dimmed. The air turned cold. A deep tone filled the chamber. Not loud. Not painful. But strong enough to silence every mouth. On the central platform, a dark symbol appeared in the air. Human. Old. Simple. A voice spoke through the hall speakers. Not a shout. Not a threat. A calm human voice, the same one from the battlefield. You returned home. The council froze. Leaders stared at each other in horror. How? Zelmer whispered. The voice continued. You were allowed to leave. Not because you were strong. Because humanity chose restraint. Lord Varrex stepped forward, trying to show courage. You dare enter the throne's chamber? The voice answered calmly. This chamber is not protected from us. A new image appeared. A view of the council hall, like someone was watching from above. Then another image, showing every throne fleet location. Then another, showing secret supply worlds the throne never shared. The message was clear. Humans could see everything. The voice spoke again. You want to understand judgment? The hall went silent. Judgment is not destruction, the voice said. Judgment is consequence. Suddenly, all war systems across the throne network locked. Fleets in distant sectors reported engine failure. Weapon cores shut down. Missile codes turned useless. In one moment, the Galactic throne lost control of its greatest pride, its power. Panic exploded across the Empire. Leaders shouted. Officers screamed over comms. Zelmer's hands trembled. What have you done? The voice replied, still calm. A lesson. Lord Varrex roared. We will rebuild. We will. His words stopped when another message appeared. A list of throne worlds. Next to each world, a single blinking mark. A target. Not fired. Not activated. Just, present. A quiet reminder. The voice spoke one final time. This is mercy. And then the lights returned. The symbol vanished. The voice was gone. The council sat in stunned silence. High Regent Zelmer finally spoke, his voice barely a whisper. The humans have judged us, and spared us. Marshal Corden nodded slowly. They did not come to conquer. He looked at the frightened faces of the greatest leaders in the galaxy. They came to make sure we never forget. And deep in throne space, across every world and every fleet, the same new truth spread like fire. The Galactic throne was no longer the strongest power in the galaxy. Humanity had simply let them believe it was. The galactic throne did not sleep that night. Across thousands of worlds, lights stayed on in war rooms and council towers. Admirals stared at dead screens. Generals argued with engineers. Merchants whispered in fear. Even common citizens felt it. Something had changed in the galaxy, like the stars themselves had shifted. The throne's fleets were still there. But they were no longer trusted. Weapon systems remained locked, as if an invisible hand rested on every trigger. Engineers tried to override the shutdown codes. They failed. Every time they forced a reboot, the systems returned to the same message. Access denied. No signature. No trace. Just a calm warning written into their very machines. High Regent Zelmer stood alone in the Grand Council Hall. The crystal walls reflected his tired face. He had always believed the throne was untouchable. That belief had been a shield for his mind. Now it was gone. Marshal Corden entered quietly. His steps echoed. He looked like a soldier who had seen the end of certainty. "The Empire is frightened," Zelmer said. Corden nodded. "They should be." Zelmer turned slowly. "Tell me the truth, Marshal. When you faced that human ship, did you feel like it was afraid of us?" Corden's answer came without hesitation. "No." He took a deep breath. It felt calm. Like it had already decided the outcome. The words hung in the air. Zelmer's voice became a whisper. "Then we never had a chance." Corden looked down. "We never did." For 3 days, the throne sent messages toward human space. First, demands. No reply. Then threats. No reply. Then silence. Finally, Zelmer did what no regent had ever done before. He sent a simple message. A humble message. A message written in plain language, without titles, without pride. "We withdraw. We apologize. We will not return." Even writing those words felt like swallowing fire. Minutes passed. Hours. Nothing. Then, on the 4th day, the reply arrived. Not from a human planet. Not from a known station. It came from deep space. From nowhere. The message contained only one sentence. "Good." That was all. No insult. No threat. No demand. Just confirmation. Like a teacher marking a student's final answer. The Throne Council gathered again. Fear and anger sat side by side. Lord Varek still wanted war, but his voice had lost power. Even he understood something now. War against humans was not war. It was suicide. And across the galaxy, the story spread. Pirate clans that once laughed at humans began avoiding human routes. Smugglers changed maps. Old empires stopped expanding near human borders. Even rival powers began to send gifts and peace offers toward Earth, hoping to avoid attention. A new phrase entered galactic culture. "Do not wake the sleeping humans." But the strangest change was not fear. It was respect. Because the human response was not conquest. Not revenge. Not glory. Humans had the power to break the throne. But they chose restraint. They could have taken worlds. They could have demanded tribute. They could have erased entire fleets. Instead, they did something far more terrifying. They showed they could, and then they stopped. That meant their strength was real. And their control was even stronger. Weeks later, a young throne officer stood at the edge of a space station, staring into the dark. He had been there when the human ship appeared. He still remembered the silence. The calm voice. The way space bent like it respected the ship. He whispered to himself, "Where are they hiding?" No one answered. But in the deep void, Far beyond the throne's best scanners, a faint shadow moved. Not one ship. Not two. Many. Silent lights blinked once and vanished. A fleet without banners. A fleet without pride. A fleet built for survival, not for show. And at the center of that unseen armada, a simple message passed from ship to ship. Border secure. Threat contained. The humans did not celebrate. They did not sing. They did not claim victory. They simply returned to the dark, watching, waiting, guarding. And the galactic throne, once the ruler of all stars, understood the final truth. It was never the strongest power in the galaxy. It was only the loudest. Because the strongest power was the one nobody saw coming.